On this week's edition of the Crubcast and next week's edition of the Crubcast, we have a very special double episode for you where we will be definitively proving what is the single best GameCube game of all time. My name's Kevin. I'm here with four of my fellow sexy co-crubbers today. I'm here with Chris, Mykonos fan. Hello, Chris.
Hi, I'm sexy.
I'm here with famous Twitch streamer JTart9.
I love the GameCube. I'm glad to be here.
I'm here with Trav Guy. Hi, Trav. And that'll go great for our audio listeners at crub.org if you want to join the audio version of this podcast. And I'm here with Brody, our resident VTuber. Hi, Brody.
Yoshi.
You know what? We're going to end this episode, actually. I don't like this. Today,
Merry Christmas.
Today on
Merry
the Crubcast,
Christmas, everybody.
We're doing a similar video here, similar audio podcast as well. But if you want the video element, go to youtube.com/@CrubOfficial to our PS2 bracket that we did a while back. But this time with more room for discussion. It's going to be split into two episodes for the sake of fun here. And we're going to go through this list of the 27 best GameCube games of all time, or the most noteworthy 27 GameCube games of all time. They are in a randomized triple threat bracket. So there are three seeds here, as you'll see on screen in a moment. And they're going to go head to head the whole way through. And that'll let us do our discussion, decide who's going to win and vote. And hopefully at the end, Elden Ring wins. That's the goal here. So I'm going to bring up on screen the actual bracket itself. Chris, why don't you do me a favor and read me the A bracket?
A bracket. Okay. That starts with Mario Kart Double Dash, right?
Correct.
Okay. So in that bracket, there's Mario Kart Double Dash, Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, and Metroid Prime 2 in a three-way. Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, Zelda: Twilight Princess, and Pikmin 1. And then Chibi, Robo, Resident Evil 4, and Viewtiful Joe. That's the A block.
What a spread.
Justin,
what a spread.
Why don't you read me what the B block looks like?
B block is looking like we have Luigi's Mansion versus Super Smash Bros. Melee versus Mario Sunshine. Then we have Star Wars Rogue Leader, Pokemon XD, and Mario Strikers in the next one. And then the final one of the B block will be Metroid Prime 1, F-Zero GX, and Mario Party.
And Trav.
Whichever one you want.
Yeah, Mario Party is the one wild card where you just get to pick whatever your ideal Mario Party is. And we'll see how that goes when we get there. Trav, read the C block contests for me.
Yes, sir. The C block is looking pretty packed today, I say as I'm pulling up the link. I'm just kidding. I have it right here. In the C block, round one, we have Eternal Darkness versus Pikmin 2 versus Soul Calibur 2. Round two, we got Super Monkey Ball 2, Wario World, and DK Jungle Beat. And in round three, we have, oh lord, Animal Crossing, Wind Waker, and Fire Emblem. All very similar games.
All the RPGs. Again, this was an entirely randomized bracket. I randomized it a couple times and went with the one that looked the most even as far as randomness goes, because there are some here that aren't going to be comparable. But I think that this came out really well so far, and I think it'll be fun to go through all of these. Especially with the round one of death, because we're losing some big hits either way here. Mario Kart Double Dash, Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, and Metroid Prime 2.
Yeah, this is a battle between titans right away.
Yeah. Chris, I'm going to go to you first. Tell me what you think about, pick one of these games and just tell me what you think about it.
I've only played Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, and I think because it's a Dreamcast game, we should not give it any support at all, and then I can sit and not talk for the rest of this bit.
I can respect that. Brody, I know you are... So, Brody, you're the reason that SA2 is on this bracket.
Yes.
What we did was we went through and actually pulled up the consensus best GameCube games of all time down to the top 20. We then put in a few others from like outside the top 20, and we spot checked it all compared to the Metacritic ranking of like the best GameCube games, just to get an idea of which ones were super outside. So if you're upset about like a Kirby Air Ride, we put SA2 Battle in over Air Ride because, I mean, come on, that's the correct answer.
I was going to slam my desk,
but
I'm the only dissenter here.
But Brody's vanity pick of this list was SA2 Battle, so it got in. Tell us what you think about SA2 Battle and why you're not going to vote for it over Mario Kart.
Me? Oh, well, the thing is, So we looked at it and I saw that it was most people I feel like associate it as a GameCube game because it didn't sell that well on Dreamcast. It sold significantly better on GameCube. I know it as a GameCube game, is my first Sonic game, and it is near and dear to my heart. I probably would not be the person I am today without that, but I can say that about many games. But at the same time, it's your first Sonic game. You're never going to be the same after that. So Shadow's my favorite character. It's I don't know. I replayed it a ton. The Chow Garden is amazing. Double Dash is fantastic. I love Double Dash. But SA2 Battle.
I know French fries from McDonald's, Brody. That doesn't mean they made them.
What does that mean?
That might be the best analogy to start.
Bro is spitting.
Trav,
right.
What are your thoughts on this round? Because I should also have said at the start of this that unlike the PS2 bracket, we made sure that at least 3 of us have played just about every game on this bracket. There are a couple exceptions where it kind of made sense that 2 is enough. Metroid Prime 2 was one where Trav and I are the only 2 who have played it. We were like, that was enough. And we didn't feel like excluding Prime 2 because it still is highly rated, despite, maybe not being as good as Prime 1. But that's the one exception in this one where it's just you and I that would hold up that one if we're going to. What are your thoughts on, Prime 2, and then which one do you think you're leaning towards so far at the start of this?
So I'm totally biased. I love Prime 2. It was the first Metroid that I played that had deathmatch, which there's only 2 of them, so it's not a high bar. But I remember I bought the game from the GameStop. I took it home and played deathmatch repeatedly with my sister and her husband. Just thought it was amazing. But the game itself, hugely formative to my life. So I'm completely biased here. It's going to be difficult for me to talk about this game critically, but I will. It's a really good game, really fun adventure game, lots of puzzles, all that high replayability, which is important to me in a game. However, I also spent dozens of years of my childhood, which for only being allowed to play a video game 2 hours a day was a lot. I also put a lot of hours into Sonic Adventure 2. Not gonna lie, on the GameCube specifically,
talk about
mostly in the
replayability.
Don't talk to me.
How many of those hours were you just staring at your chow, waiting on them to do something interesting or progressive?
At least 6 total, because that's how many I needed to reincarnate them, and I got 2 Chaos Chows, which required 2 reincarnations each.
And you just had to sit in that garden and watch.
You got the other gardens too, right?
Huh?
You got the Hero Garden and the Dark Garden?
Yeah, I'm not a freaking loser.
Yeah,
but
only losers don't get the Hero and Dark Garden.
I'm not gonna lie. Mario Kart Double Dash, probably the only Mario Kart that I go back to that isn't 8 Deluxe, just because of how unique it is. Probably my favorite Mario Kart, if we don't count 8 Deluxe.
Yeah.
And so personally, not gonna lie, I think I'm leaning towards it Mario Kart. As much as I love Metroid Prime 2, as much as I have nostalgic connections to SA2 Battle.
That's kind of where I was leaning. I do enjoy Prime 2. I didn't play it nearly as much as you did. I didn't play it till much later in life. I didn't play it till 2014 because I didn't play Prime 1 till 2014. And I love Prime 1 so much that I went right into 2. And, it does have its issues with backtracking, but I appreciated that it almost feels like a Zelda-esque approach to having the light and dark world sort of thing going on.
Absolutely.
To its puzzle design feels, it's still Metroid-y, but it feels distinct from other Metroid games. Which I appreciate, and that does a really unique version of the Metroid power fantasy that you end up having over the course of a game, because it does it in segments, which doesn't tend to happen too much. You just kind of usually feel yourself get more powerful, as time goes on organically. In Prime 2, you can feel by the end of a section like you are like a god of that section, and I think that's really cool.
That's a great way of putting it. Yeah, I think that in that case it is balanced fairly well. Yeah,
and again, that's kind of why I felt like it deserved to be here, because yes, Prime 1 is the game that everyone's going to pick no matter what over Prime 2. But 2 is a goddamn good game. It's just so fun. I will admit I didn't finish it. I got to the final area and then I was in college, so college took precedent.
That's fair. The final area is not great.
Once you lose, your placement in a game like that, start over, because good luck. But functionally, I also think that Double Dash is kind of just the pick here, It's nothing against SA2 Battle. It's just like Chris, I like more people played the game on GameCube, but it is a Dreamcast game. And I think that's not really a huge thing but there aren't really many third multi-platform games here on this list. And if I'm gonna pick a game, SA2 is not the GameCube game I would pick for sure. Justin, what are your experiences with these games?
I was gonna say, like, real quick, in my mind, the way that this round goes is, generally speaking, people consider Prime 1 better than Prime 2, so that can't move through. And Sonic Adventure 2 is a good game, but it's also buggy as hell.
Made.
So it'd have to be Double Dash. You know what I mean?
Prime 1 ain't in this category, Justin.
Yeah, I was going to say, but you can't, I don't know that you can use Prime 2 as the example, or Prime 1 as the example for why Prime 2 shouldn't be better than these other games, in your opinion. That's the catch.
I'm thinking it as like a pragmatic, like, we're doing a bracket kind of thing. And at the end of the day, they would meet each other in the finals, and then you'd have to pick between Prime 2 and Prime 1.
Prime 2, Prime 1, and a third game from the other block.
Yeah, so like
could be a monkey ball sweep. You don't know.
It could be. It is a monkey ball sweep. That's it. At the end of the day, it is a monkey ball sweep.
It's rigged.
But no, I love Mario Kart Double Dash. It feels really good to play still, which is like a thing I can say about a lot of GameCube games is that they've aged really well. Like a lot of games on the GameCube still play well, which is why I love the GameCube as much as I do. Mario Kart Double Dash is also really unique because it has a mechanic that they, for some reason, never come back to. The two racer mechanic that really can change how you mix and match your teams to make like the kart that you want.
For 8.
Yeah, like I
just
really,
as an option.
Like even as like a DLC, like hey, 8 Deluxe, we're gonna give you an option to have two racers on the card.
They kind of brought back the function in 8, right?
They brought the double item box, but they didn't bring the utility that came with it in Double Dash.
Yeah, because there was like strategy too of like switching your racer right before hitting an item box to make sure that you can catch a second item box when you're hitting a right turn or something like that.
And just the little brother mode of having the ability to play 2-player on one cart.
Yeah, and 2-player on one cart, and also having the unique items per rider on the cart, so that way it really actually did matter which racer you picked. Like if you want the big banana, you got to play as either Donkey Kong or Diddy Kong.
Yeah.
Like if you want to have I think the triple rotating shells was on Koopa and Paratroopa specifically. Like you needed to have one of those two on your.
So they took it out and made it DLC. They paywalled it.
Yeah,
trash game.
They paywalled my game. No,
is Baby Park from Double Dash?
It is from Double Dash. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that's strong for Double Dash. I gotta say.
Yeah. No.
I know my opinion on Double Dash is funky because I was never a GameCube kid. I have played most of the games on this list for different projects in recent months. And I've, obviously I played Double Dash at points as a kid with friends. I never loved Double Dash's actual traction. I think it's a lot better than Mario Kart Wii because Mario Kart Wii is even slidier, but with a lot more narrow of track roads. And that with motion controls is no bueno. I did get used to Double Dash in the times that I've played it, and I do love that unique mechanic. The other thing I wanted to say was, I'll try and do this throughout this episode. I do want to highlight what the ranking was as far as, given this is Metacritic, so it's not every classic review, but I think it's pretty interesting to look at. Prime 2 was the 16th best GameCube game. Double Dash was the 48th. Sonic Adventure 2 Battle was the 207th, which was well above Kirby, I promise.
48th is a crime.
There were a lot of high-ranking GameCube games, and a lot of them were also like Madden. Like a lot of third-party sports games in those first couple years.
Like Madden used to get like really
there was that
high
basketball
ratings.
game that had Mario, Luigi, and Peach.
Yeah, I don't think that reviewed mega well.
Volume 3.
But
that was the worst one.
Like Madden 2004 is like the third highest rated GameCube game ever. Like actually,
wow.
So why isn't another bracket, Kevin?
It's somewhere in that range. So I think we've all kind of gotten our rounds in on what we think about each of these games. If we're to put it to a lean right now, Chris, what do you think you're leaning as far as vote?
I played Double Dash with my cousins once. It's very much that kind of game for me. I just don't want to vote for SA2 because it just doesn't feel right. I don't know.
You have to. You have to.
Fake Sonic fan.
Like I was a Dreamcast kid, right? So I look at this like, well, what did this add to the game? And it added Child Karate, which is cool. Some multiplayer stuff, right? But kind of the same game. So I'm just like, to give it its flowers, like I think it's got good arcadey gameplay. I think going for A ranks is like legitimately challenging and fun to master, right? So, I'm just afraid of voting for it, and then Brody votes for it, and then it gets a third vote, and then somehow SA2 goes forward. So I'm going to say Double Dash. I'm starting this with
thank you for your service.
corruption already. I don't care. I'll be the bad guy.
I mean, it's Double Dash.
Everyone watching at home know that Chris did this.
What do you mean?
I don't think
Kevin,
any sane
you're
person watching thought that SA2 was actually going to advance. Come on, man.
Were there other SA2 voters? Other than Brody?
Kevin, you're muted.
The thing is if you like SA2, Kevin was afraid to put SA2 on this bracket because he knows that the people that like it will be very, very loud about the fact that it's going out in this round.
I just don't want another Spider-Man 2.
So I think a lot of it comes down to, we've talked about this for a decent amount of time, and at the end of the day, I think no matter what, based on what you had said, Chris, even if you wanted to vote for SA2, I think the three of us are probably voting for
Double Dash. And even if Trav voted Prime, it would go 2-2-1, and then ranked choice voting, Trav would go to Double Dash. It's tough, and I didn't want to put SA2 in here specifically because I knew that there was a good chance it would go out in round one, and I felt that was maybe a disrespect that a lot of Sonic fans are used to dealing with, and I don't think that's quite fair. I've seen it get dunked on constantly in these sorts of best GameCube games discussions, and it's obviously a beloved GameCube game because it's a lot of people's first Sonic game, and I think that that's valuable. At the same time, I also think that if there's a way to play SA2, I wouldn't do it on GameCube. And I know, Brody, you've been playing SA2 recently, but you haven't been playing it on GameCube, which is an interesting dichotomy here.
Because I lost my copy.
Oh, so you don't even love the game that much then?
Not even worth keeping.
I do, and I lost it, and I'm so sad. I've been so sad.
If you love it, you have to let it go.
Copies. I think I have 2 copies of SA2 on
You
GameCube.
stole Brody's copy.
I think I stole one copy.
Justin, send me a copy.
It's tough, and
I need it.
And I know there was an audio hiccup here, that there was a cut in the recording. But Chris, you said something in the first version of this part of the discussion that I want you to go back to.
I was saying what you said, but meaner,
but better.
If I was going to go play a GameCube game, SA2 wouldn't be one of the first ones, basically, no matter what. Right?
Yeah, and that's a lot of it. I don't want to start the precedent of this game is better elsewhere, but I would only ever play that game on PC with mods that restore a lot of the Dreamcast tweaks. Not that there were too many in that game's case, but you made me a purist on Sonic Adventure, Chris. So it's your fault. It is.
You're welcome.
But
if this was SADX, I'd be meaner against it.
I think SADX was like 300 in the Metacritic ranking. It was like a lot lower.
That's my preferred way to play.
I don't think that's true.
I think for the record's sake, it's a 4-1 Mario Kart sweep over Sonic Adventure 2.
Yeah.
But
if you needed to hear it from me, yes, I'm voting for Mario Kart in this election.
It was just it was a poor placement by the randomizer to have put SA2 in the first place that we knock it out. I should have probably moved that, but oh well.
This was up against Wario World, and
to all of the SA2 fans watching, know that I'm in your corner, and
you're the reason that Air Ride's not here and SA2 is. So credit to you.
I'm homing attacking into the corner to go out of bounds.
Now that looks like a homing shot.
To jump ahead, we're gonna do the first entry from the B block now. We're going to go one from A, one from B, one from C, and then continue. Okay. We are looking at Luigi's Mansion. This is also a tournament of death here. Luigi's Mansion.
This one's a bloodbath.
Versus Super Smash Bros. Melee versus Mario Sunshine.
This one's vile.
This one is evil. This
one's really mean.
This one looks like this one doesn't look random. This is like you wanted a cage match.
Like there's only one place that I moved something around, and that was to specifically, what did I move? I moved Monkey Ball and something else. And that was for, I think, Mario Party, because the way that it shook out was weird. There was something I moved one thing that didn't make a huge difference in terms of logistics. It was just for the sake of timing. But this was like pretty much entirely random. Like I took that one change.
This is a crazy one. Though.
Yeah,
This
I
really
almost
is a
thought
crazy
about
one. This
running
is
it
like,
again, but I was like, this is just such a good even bracket that gets really good discussion that I'm like, no, I don't. No, this is right. So
yeah, it just sucks that only one of these games is moving on to the second round.
yeah,
I know.
Yeah.
That's
It's
insane.
crazy.
Trav, I'll go
And
to
it's
you.
clear which one it is.
I'll go to you first.
I
Here,
will
Melee,
Trav.
happily
baby.
take the first shot. I'm gonna maybe be the most dissenting opinion. I'm leaning towards Luigi's Mansion.
Oh, okay.
So I love Melee. I spent probably the most time on my GameCube growing up playing Melee, and the second most time probably playing Mario Sunshine. I loved both of these games. Every game that I love on this list really came into my life in a formative year. So I probably shouldn't have given that all to Prime 2. But Luigi's Mansion, I rented the game from my local store, which was like a Spotlight Video ripoff. That I'm not going to say because it might dox me where I was born.
It was Hollywood Video.
But dude. Anyway, so I rented it from this place, and I didn't understand it. I beat the tutorial. I went up the stairs, got to the first proper room where all you're supposed to do is blow out the purple candles, and then it spawns Ghost. I didn't understand that. I was so stuck just in this area, and I rented the game for a week, never got past that first room, just ended up playing the tutorial over and over again. And then fast forward, I was like maybe in second grade at the time. Fast forward to fourth grade, talking with someone who would become one of my best friends, still friends with them to this day. One of the first conversations we ever have is, hey, have you ever played Luigi's Mansion? And it turned into me going, hey, yeah, I don't know how to get past this thing, except I was in fourth grade. So I worded it probably like not very coherently. And they're like, oh, you just have to blow out the candles. So I buy the game eventually, blow out the candles, and then the game opens up to me, and I'm just like, oh, I get it now. And then I end up beating the game, no problem.
I love the back and forth there between, I played Prime 2 as a kid all the time, and I couldn't blow the candles out in Luigi's Mansion.
I don't see an issue. We're friends with Nico.
That's incredible. I'll go next year because I think, again, I was not a GameCube kid. I played Luigi's Mansion, years ago in high school because my friends wanted me to play it, and I didn't really enjoy it that much. I think I'd be more fond of it now, but I haven't gone back to play it since. There was something about it that didn't super click with me. I can't really put my finger on it. I'm surprised that I'm saying this because I am specifically not a Sunshine fan. I think I'm voting Sunshine. And that's because recently, for again video projects, I finally gave Sunshine the full complete shot, and I engaged with the game on its terms. And I still have issues with actual game design, level design, etc.
Oh yeah,
but I it finally clicked to me, and I think I really respect the kind of game that it can be, even if I wish that it was maybe still better, if that makes sense. I was never a Melee kid. I specifically got into Smash with Brawl because my friends were playing Brawl at the time. And that was the game where I was able to convince all of them to say, put items on again, because they would play no items Final Destination. And I'm here not knowing how to play. So at one point I was like, hey, why don't we play it like a party game like it is so that I can have fun too. And that opened it up so that I was able to start having fun. I learned how to play the game properly more so. I had a pretty mean Ice Climbers, despite never owning the game. I just kind of learned. And
that's true.
Yeah, so Melee, I didn't have a lot to do with it. And it's weird for me to say Sunshine because I've been on record saying I don't like that game. But by the time this comes out, my video where I talk about Sunshine is probably out. I came around. And yeah. Justin, what about you? I know where your heart is.
This is so mean.
Sunshine's
Sunshine. This is literally like, hey, choose one of your children. The other two die. Oh man. Sunshine is one of my favorite Mario.
Top. Oh, okay,
Sunshine's one of my favorite Mario games of all time. Just flat out. I love Sunshine. I beat that game in 2 days flat when I played it in earnest for the first time. And like I just blasted through the whole game. Like I love that game so much. I had it ever since I was a kid. Like that's the Mario I grew up on. I had 64, but I grew up on Sunshine. Luigi's Mansion, I didn't actually play that game until like 2021, and I played it on Twitch. That was the first time I played it.
That was the first stream of famous Twitch streamer JTAR9, or one of.
It was not, but I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But Melee is why I'm basically here. Without Super Smash Bros. Melee, I don't get into Smash Bros. As much as I do, and I don't meet Kevin. And
That's true.
By consequence, I don't meet everybody else.
That's true.
You could have prevented this podcast.
I could have stopped it.
Sakurai, you piece of shit. If you hadn't made this game, I wouldn't know this trash human being.
See, I was thinking like just a world where Justin never played Smash, but you're just going towards a world where they never made
They shouldn't have made Smash Bros. Because I had to meet Justin.
They should have left it at the N64 one.
Yep. It should have just realized they peaked on the N64.
Yeah. You're right, though, because we got to know each other by way of... you
Smash
were on
4.
Nico's dorm floor in college, and we just started playing Smash together, and we got that entire floor of a wide, diverse group of, dudes to come and play Smash with us. Like, you had like the, what would have been high school jocks, coming into college, they would come and play. We had all the nerds. We had regular people.
Straight up. And I would just put the Wii U in the lobby of my floor, and people from the 6th floor would come up and people from the top floor would come down, and we'd all just play Smash together.
Yeah.
Because that was when they first also introduced 8-player Smash. So we just had one multi-tap with the GameCube controllers, and another one had like the gamepad, another person had like a Wiimote with a nunchuck, and one person had it without the nunchuck.
Justin, that's very sentimental, but what's that got to do with Melee?
Well, Melee's where it all started. Melee's where it all started.
Tell me about your experience with Mario Sunshine.
I told you about my experience with Mario Sunshine.
All right, I forgot.
So brass tacks. So how do you feel about Melee as its own game?
As its own game, I played it. It's okay. When I played Melee so much as a kid, and then Brawl came out, and then I got to about senior year in high school, and we had a student lounge in high school, and in that lounge, someone brought in a GameCube, and on that GameCube we had Melee, and I broke out of my shell and really started being comfortable talking to other people about like my interests and liking video games and stuff like that, because for a while it was like something you had to hide from the public without being like made fun of. So I got back into Melee then, and man, that game still holds up. I mean, people still play it to this day too. Like, let's not forget about the legacy that Melee has. Like, it's Melee. It's Melee. Like, it's one of my favorite games of all time, bar none. Nothing like any system, any console, anything, anywhere. Melee is one of my favorite games of all time, and I will stand on that hill until I die.
So you're voting Melee as of right now.
100%.
Chris, I'm going to go to you fourth here. What are your experiences with these games?
Sunshine is my first Mario game, like proper Mario, and I don't think it's very great, but I like it in spite of all of that, right? I like that every level is kind of tropical themed. No, it makes it feel very unique. It's like I don't like playing it, but I like remembering playing it, if that makes sense.
It does make sense.
It's a weird one. Yeah.
It's like Mario Sunshine is the epitome of a vibes game. Like, it has such a good vibe.
Yeah. In Luigi's Mansion, like, we're in the era still where like you would go to a Walmart or something and the games would be up on the television screen 8 feet high, right? Like, I remember sampling Luigi's Mansion at a Sam's Club and my mom and dad being like, "Oh, do you like it? Would you want one for Christmas?" And I was like, "No, this game's dumb." And I got one for Christmas and I wound up loving it, right? Like, it's the perfect, I'm just going to put this on and beat it in an evening game for me, because it is just the right length of not too long, not too short. But Melee, I mean, come on. If I got to play a GameCube game, right, and I'm only given one, it's probably going to be Melee. I just love getting in there and unlocking stuff and playing it. I like going through the 51 events, right? I like going through classic adventure mode. it's just extremely nostalgic. Coming in as a Smash 1 fan, seeing like the huge jump in Melee and like unlocking Mewtwo, like as a 7-year-old, I was freaking out because I had this like 32-page fake cheat code list printed out for Smash 64 that was saying you could unlock like Mewtwo and Charizard and stuff, and it was all lies. So actually seeing Mewtwo in game, I freaked out. Like there was a lot to offer to a dumb kid.
So you played the 64 one first?
Yeah, I have a question.
I also did.
I have a question relating to that because you said Sunshine was like your first proper Mario. Did you have an N64 and not Mario 64?
I had Banjo Tooie.
Oh, I know.
And that was my 3D platformer on the N64.
Hell yeah. Good job. Good job.
That's such an interesting.
Really funny.
That's such an interesting thing. Just because
I have a weird N64 library.
Yeah, like I understand it if you got the games secondhand or someone lost their copy before they handed it down to you. It's just so interesting because that's the game. Like just about every N64 had. I mean, not in terms of overall sales by the end, but that's fascinating.
I still have the box. Like I got the one that came with Pokemon Stadium. Like that was what.
Oh, okay. So you were
household.
like 2000-ish, 1999, 2000.
Somewhere in there. Yeah.
That would make sense with Banjo Tooie because that's around when Banjo Tooie.
That makes a lot of sense. That's an interesting way of coming around to these games.
Yeah,
it's really unique.
Yeah, the thing with Melee is like Luigi's like solid. I really love that game, but Melee is, I would maybe say, I won't say it's the best one here, but I mean, I'm looking at all these other games and it's like, yeah, I'd pretty much play Melee over most of this. So I can't really swing any other way on this one. As much as I do have space in my heart for the other two.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a tough one either way. Brody, you get to round it out and maybe lock this in already. What are your experiences with these games?
A lot. I mean, I would say that they're all formative for me in some way. I know for Luigi's Mansion and Sunshine specifically, like those were the two games where I had I don't even think they were Prima strategy guides at the time. I don't remember what they were called, but I had like the full books of like how to do everything or whatever. And I'll take them one at a time, I guess. Luigi's Mansion was probably the first game where I would look back on it and think about my time on it and think about the impact that like video games could have on me. In specific because of two particular things. One was it was the first time I got really, really stuck, I think, as a kid, or at least the most memorable time that I got stuck as a kid on a boss, and I couldn't beat it. It was like the second like major boss of the game.
Is that the guy that had to throw his shadows back at him?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and I couldn't do it. I stopped playing the game for months, and it was the first time I had that experience of, okay, well, come back to a game that you've been stuck on months and months later thinking like I can't beat that boss, go back, beat it first try. And
that's your first Souls-like experience.
Yeah, kind of.
Straight up.
And the other part was there's this little bit in chapter 3, which I think is this genius bit of game design where the entire game you're going through and you're lighting up every room. Every time you capture all the ghosts in a room, it lights up. In chapter 3, you're up in the attic in like the far left of the mansion or whatever. And there's a thunderstorm and it hits and the power goes out. So you have to go all the way to the basement to turn the power back on. So you've gotten this sense of like, oh, I'm making the mansion safer for me as I'm moving through it. Mm-hmm. And now all of a sudden it's dangerous again. It's scary again. Now there's new ghosts in each room that are like more powerful. And that, I think, was the first time that a video game actually instilled fear in me. Now, granted, I was like 8 years old, but still, like, it really affected me.
Right? Like, it kind of feels good to light that mansion up, and you're like, as you see it fill up.
Yeah.
And then they're just like, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And you like hit a toad and he's like the save area. I think it's like it is Resident Evil for kids, but I didn't play the actual Resident Evil until like 3 years ago, right? Like that was my introduction to the concept of a horror game.
Yeah.
And it worked really well. For Melee, that was a game for most of my life cycle with the GameCube. It was a game that my friends had and I would play at their houses, and I very much enjoyed playing at their houses, but I was also always one of the worst in the friend group because I didn't have it at home to play or to practice. And to this day, I'm not someone that really practices in fighting games. So I tend to be bad at them, but I still like them, right? It's still like, oh, look at all my favorite characters. They make them kiss, like.
That's not a fighting game.
I don't know. What game are you playing, Brody?
The one with Martha and Roy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've seen them kiss.
And like Chris said, I was someone who would go and I would print off pages and pages and pages of cheat codes for all my games, and like the Mewtwo leave it on for 20 hours thing, or getting Luigi by getting it like at the 0.2 seconds or something on the first stage. Like I love secrets in games like that. So it is fantastic.
You just had to have a 2 in the timer
you
somewhere.
You had a 2 in the timer
had to be in the
somewhere.
In the second slot.
When you cross the...
I think you're wrong. I think it just has to have a 2 in it at any point.
And it's all that stupid nonsense. Like, not to jump on you too much here, Brody, but just to add real quick. Like, it always felt like there was something else to unlock in Melee, no matter what.
Yeah.
And I love that.
The trophies were in first 2.
It took the logical conclusion of a lot of what Sakurai's Kirby games did and made like an everything game without diluting the mechanics like Kirby sometimes did.
Yeah. And there's a lot of things in like modern Smash games that I miss from it, right? Like I miss Smash the targets, or I miss
or the platforms.
Now in the days of data mining, or in Smash's case, the days of just using every character as marketing, nothing is a surprise anymore, right? Like you're not surprised when a new character shows up and you're like, oh my god, they're in the game. So Melee was one of the last to have that. Brawl had it to some extent.
I was going to say, the last time I got surprised by a character in Smash, it was Duck Hunt in Smash 4. Because that game got leaked before Duck Hunt got revealed.
Well, I think what Brody means is being surprised by it while playing the game.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I think the last time that happened, like, that's the reason Brawl didn't, or games past Brawl didn't have cutscenes, because Sakurai knew it would just get leaked online, and his answer to that was just announce everything early.
Yeah.
Which
is a weird choice.
That was also, it was also a YouTube thing with the cutscenes, because that was the era of, well, if you can watch the video game, why play it? That has since changed, of course. People understand that's not how that works, but in the era, So Brody, what about Sunshine then?
Yeah. To round it out, Sunshine was not my first Mario game, but my first 3D Mario game. Because I had a couple on the Game Boy Advance before that. And it is one of those few games in my life that I will make a point to, at least every few years, if not every year, go back and replay. And I've fallen off of that tradition a little bit in recent years. But like growing up, it was like Spyro 2 and Sunshine. I play these games every year at least once. I replay them because I love them so much. They're such a part of my life, and they are games that I consistently find, and Sunshine in particular is a game I consistently find that every time I play it, I find something new that I like about it, or something I didn't realize. And it's got all these little quirks, like once you learn that you can, in Mario 64, you could skip stars if you found them, but in Sunshine, the only star that you can skip is the first one in Bianco Hills. So once you find that out, it's like, okay, well, I'm always going to skip that star because it's tradition. Like I have to skip that star. And
my dude never 100% games.
Yeah, honestly, it's weird, but I would go through, and I love beach levels to this day because of that game. It was the first game I think I saw that did the thing where it was like, oh, there's loading zones between things, but I can see Rico Harbor from Delfino Plaza, or I can see Pina Park, or I can see Serena Beach from Pina Park, and all that stuff. And it actually felt like, oh, I'm in this world. It's a cohesive world that I get to explore. And with the addition of Flood and sort of the water-based mechanics and Mario's moveset, it doesn't feel like any other 3D Mario game that I had played since then. And I miss that moveset. I love it to death. And so I always go back to it. I always find myself coming back to it. And it's a game that I, up until like 2016 or 2018, I never 100%ed it because you're not going to get, no one goes and gets all the blue coin. I had the strategy guide.
Brody, I'm going to cut you off. Question.
Yeah.
If you're voting for Sunshine, we can save some of this. If you're not, continue.
I am voting for Sunshine.
Okay. So the reason I cut you off is I realized that we will have a lot of discussion left in the next round as well if Sunshine wins, and you were the tiebreaker. So I was like,
that's fair.
I don't want to end your
Trav's the tiebreaker.
No, it's 2-2. Oh, it's 2-2. Oh shit, you're right.
It's 2-2-1. Trav's the tiebreaker.
You're
Trav
correct.
voted for Luigi's Mansion.
So Trav, you get to decide
Oh, it's coming to me. Okay.
Melee
I thought you guys were
or
gonna stretch this
Sunshine.
out a little bit longer. All right.
No pressure, Trav.
No, I looked over.
Just make sure you pick the right
while
one.
you're thinking, because we are already probably halfway into this episode of the podcast, make sure to check out our Patreon at patreon.com/Crub. You get a bunch of bonus content, including stuff like our Podcastemon discussions, where we are watching every single episode of Pokemon and talking about them and shooting the shit along the way. A bunch of other stuff. Trav and I have Overcrubbed, where we go through and it's just a Let's Play of Overcooked. That's been a lot of fun. We are hoping to get more episodes of that out soon. There's multiple tiers. You can just join the tier to support us and ask a couple questions, also known as the Throw a Quarter at Brody tier. A bunch of other fun stuff like that. And you can also join the Discord at crub.org/join. That's free to join. You can just come hang out, chat with us. We even have some fun other experiences there as well. So, Trav, I've bought you some time.
Yes, you have. And I think I'm going to have to go with Mario Sunshine.
Okay.
Whoa!
That was
Really?
my thought had been when I said that would be that Brody was the tiebreaker.
Wow.
Mentally in my head, I was like, well, if Trav has to be the tiebreaker, I think Sunshine wins.
Man.
It's such a tough one. It's such a tough one. But
No.
this makes
It's
for
wrong.
this makes for an interesting thing, because Chris had said that if there was any GameCube game that you were going to pick and play, it was that one, and now that one's out.
Melee.
So we have to.
Yeah.
We have to.
I don't have any games now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Justin,
I have
you could have advanced SA2 with enough conviction.
No, I
in getting
couldn't have.
someone else. You could have, and then
No, I
honestly,
couldn't have.
I feel no sympathy for you in this moment.
This is the exact amount of
that,
chaos
Justin.
I was hoping out of this
I feel a
episode.
little bit of sympathy.
Yeah,
I'm going to
this
cut you
is-
off, Kevin.
No,
I
yeah,
feel a little bit of
nonsense.
sympathy.
Uh-oh.
Mainly because Justin poured his heart and soul into this. And I'm just like, unlike Justin, I feel like I have to pick between 3 of my own kids and like find which one's my least favorite.
I was going to say, I literally
So-
just said that.
Are you now shooting down one of the kids to walk back and pick another one?
So
No.
what
okay.
I'll also throw out is that going to the Metacritic thing that I mentioned earlier, Sunshine was the 14th top rated GameCube game based on the scores that they had uploaded to Metacritic at that point in time. 13th was Melee, and 143rd Luigi's Mansion. That game
That feels about right.
got a lot of flack when it first came out because it was one of the few launch games and it wasn't very long.
And it also wasn't Mario, yeah.
Yeah, but Brody, we'll get to your continued soapbox of Sunshine now, because it will move on. We're going to jump to the first entry in the C block, and I did remember what the change I made was. There was one change I made, and it was related to we had an entire bracket of games that only a couple of us had played, and so I moved Monkey Ball into that bracket to fix the 2 that were like, well, we might not have a lot of discussion here, because this at the end of the day is to promote discussion and talk about a console that a lot of people really, really love, and a lot of the best games that you often can't get anywhere else. And speaking of games you can't get anywhere else, Soul Calibur 2? No. So
You can get it somewhere else, you just can't get it with Link.
that doesn't matter. Even
It
better.
does in this context.
It does in this context, but let me get my shit in. So
You got
the
it.
start of the C block is Eternal Darkness versus Pikmin 2 versus Soul Calibur 2. Soul Calibur 2, I'm going to start here. Soul Calibur 2 is an interesting one to me because I don't have a lot of experience with it. I did play it, a decent bit on the GameCube. My favorite fact about it is that it sold way better on PS2 with Heihachi. The GameCube version did
Well,
not
it's also
sell.
a big-
The
It's
GameCube
a
version
bigger
did not
install
sell.
base there, too,
Yeah.
yeah.
I guess that makes sense. I shouldn't be surprised.
I think even Spawn outsold the GameCube version.
That's
Okay,
crazy.
that's a surprise.
That might be. It would be close. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it was.
I was like, because the funny thing is, everyone associates Soul Calibur 2 with Link,
Yeah.
so it's really funny to think.
Yeah. I enjoy the Soul Calibur games when I play them. I'm not a huge fan. I don't go out of my way to pick them up and play them. If I'm going to play them, I'd probably play Tekken instead. Which is why Tekken
Sure.
exists and Soul Calibur no longer does.
No, it
Pikmin-
does. We had Soul Calibur 6.
Was that
No.
5 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the team that made Soul Calibur
Checkmate.
6 all joined the Tekken team. And
Went to
they,
Tekken, yeah.
And they yeah, that's what I said, Justin.
Yeah.
Fake
They
fighting
went
game
up-
plan.
but
When you've got the Tekken guy out there being like, yeah, it's not looking good for the
Yeah.
future of Soul Calibur. I mean,
Yeah,
they literally
that's
dissolved
true.
the Soul Calibur team and moved them into Tekken after 6 did not sell enough. And because
Yeah.
Tekken
You're
was
nowhere
selling
there,
8 million
really.
copies. So Soul Calibur's tough because it's kind of a point of history at this point. Like it's a really
yeah.
it's important because it's an influential, Dreamcast game first.
Uh-oh.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like every Dreamcast game, it came to GameCube, and then people stopped playing it after that. So it's an interesting one. It kind of got fudged around by the brief death of the fighting game genre as well. I don't have much more to say on that one. Pikmin 2 is one of the few games on this list that I haven't played. I have played Pikmin 1. We'll talk about that when we get to it. And Eternal Darkness is the one that I can vouch for here. I think this game's really, really cool. I think this is one of the best Resident Evil-like games on the system. I'm not a huge Resident Evil guy, not for any particular horror reason, just that style of tanky controls doesn't really click with me. But there's a reason that Eternal Darkness is like one of the best games that no one's played. And it's because it takes the idea of an old school, tank control style Resident Evil game, and it goes into a Lovecraftian horror with it. And everyone talks about the sanity meter. For those that maybe aren't familiar, because again, this game, no one has actually played it. We all just say we did. The sanity meter is a thing that's exclusive to this game. Nintendo patented it, so you can't even use it in any other game without getting potentially sued. As you get hit, as you run into obstacles, et cetera, you have a sanity meter that will fill up. As your sanity, as you lose your sanity, random things will happen depending on the point in the game that you're in, such as it'll go to a Dutch angle, so the camera will tilt. The game will fake a blue screen. It will pretend to delete your save file. If you're reloading a gun, you'll shoot yourself. A bunch of really, really cool things that were meant to jump scare you or freak you out. It would do the thing where the volume would go down as if it was your TV volume, like the old green bars, and the game would get quieter. A bunch of just really cool, freaky things that were based in the idea of, well, games are controversial right now because they say that they make you do all these crazy things in real life. So why don't we have an actual game that messes with you in that way? And I really admire that. And I think it's the other thing I'll say about it, because I know this is one of the ones that we have the least experience with as a group here. One of the other really cool things about it is that it's an asynchronous story across I think it's 12 playable characters. And so
Either 12 or 16.
Yeah, I forget the exact amount. There's, I think, 16 chapters, and I think there's 12 characters.
Okay.
But you go through, and essentially it's the story of like a Lovecraftian, horror, a book of horrors that is seen as this, this mythical item. And so you start in Rome, you work your way up through history, and you see people that have touched this book and been corrupted by it. And there's not many games that really do Lovecraftian horror in a compelling way. And I just admire that the game tried. It's also, of fun note, the first Nintendo published game to have an M rating. Conker was published by Rare.
Yes.
So
and then what was it after that? I think Bayonetta?
Yeah, and then for a while they didn't have any more. And I think Bayonetta 2 was technically the second one. There might have been one in between that we're forgetting. Chris,
maybe.
I'm going to bounce.
Like Mad World.
I'm going to bounce to you next because I know you did play Pikmin 2 because I watched you play it for this podcast.
I did play Pikmin 2. I had Pikmin 1 as a kid, so coming into this, it sure is more Pikmin, I'll tell you that. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it sure is Pikmin, but you can divert off to another character to do other tasks and bounce back between Olimar and Louie, which is cool, right? That's a good feature. It didn't particularly inspire me much playing it for this bracket. I was just kind of like, yeah, I like Pikmin, but I haven't really played the other two games, so I guess that's my weakness here.
Fair.
Justin, I'll bounce to you.
Trav,
you go first. Justin,
Yeah,
screw you.
all right.
Please.
So I came into this thinking that I was going to be the weird one because I was going to vote for Pikmin 2.
Let's go.
So Eternal Darkness, I feel like I don't have anything else to say that Kevin hasn't already said. But I mean, he's correct. I may have played it, maybe not. But it's one of those games that it's like I know so much about just because of how much it's been talked about, even before preparing for this. Like I already knew a good amount about the game. Just because, I mean, you're sucked into it because it's like, oh yeah, this game pretends to blue screen your GameCube, even though, how does it do that?
Yeah.
And it'll like screw with the buttons. It's like if you had Psycho Mantis as its own dedicated game from Metal
I
Gear
was going to
Solid.
say, it makes sense that they were tapped to do the MGS1 remake at some point based on all that, right? Kind of Kojima-esque
and
nonsense.
Like, yeah, it's all really cool. I think recently, the last 5-ish years, I've become more familiar with like just the idea of Lovecraftian horror. So I think that's cool looking back in retrospect in a way that I didn't when I learned a lot about the game beforehand. Because like I learned about like the madness and like, oh, what do you mean Nintendo trademarked this thing? And it's like, okay, that's weird. And then coming back to it with that new perspective of knowing what Lovecraftian horror is, it's like, oh, that's actually really interesting. I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
That said, Soul Calibur 2. I don't really have anything to say about it. It was my first Soul Calibur, but I mean,
that said, I don't have much to say.
Yeah, there you go.
So it sounds like you're leaning Pikmin 2.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So I actually played Pikmin 2 for the first time last year when it came out on Switch. I played 1 and 2 back to back. I love 1. 1 is an amazing game for me. It's like it clicks my brain in a similar way to like a Metroidvania, except you also have that strategy of, you know, picking out your Pikmin.
Yeah.
But then turning 2 into a dungeon crawler, which is like makes you approach it completely differently, even though you're using a lot of the same mechanics from 1. Plus there's some upgrades that you get from dungeons also still providing that Metroidvania-esque or Zelda-esque vibe. It was a what's the word? A term for something that surprised me that I had low expectations of. Whatever. I didn't have high expectations for Pikmin 2 when I played it, and I ended up really loving it to the point where it might be my favorite of the first 3.
Oh, really?
I really like 1. I really like 3. But I just had such a blast with Pikmin 2, 100%ing it. I'm going through every dungeon.
I'm glad that we almost hedged on including Pikmin 2, but a lot of it was the same Metroid Prime 1-2 thing. Less so, of course. But there are a lot of Pikmin 1 versus 2, you know, debates. And I'm really glad that we kept it because I knew you had mentioned how much you enjoyed 2 specifically. And I didn't know that it was like your favorite of the first 3 and potentially even, you know, all 4, depending on when you play 4.
Eventually.
Yeah,
we'll
down the
come
road.
Back to it. Well, join us for the Pikmin bracket.
The best Pikmin.
Do you have a bracket with 4 games?
No. We'll rank every Pikmin as well.
There's 5.
So there'll be
Pikmin Bloom.
Yeah, and Bloom.
Hell yeah,
and the 2 videos. There are the 2. There's the
videos
3D.
were good. The videos were good though. Now that you're mentioning
Does
it,
Subspace Emissary count as a Pikmin game?
Hold on. I want to go back to the idea of Sakurai saying, "Yeah, we're not going to put cutscenes in because YouTube," and then they sold you several years later 2 YouTube videos.
Yep.
It's incredible.
One of my favorite Wii U purchases was Pikmin Video.
Jesus Christ.
Brody, I'm going to jump to you next.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't have a lot. Honestly, I don't have a lot of exposure to any of these games because Pikmin 2 was at best similar to Pikmin 1 in my experience, where it was a game that I played at McDonald's, right? Like in the play place.
Yep, I know exactly what you're talking about.
McDonald's setup where that was my exposure to a lot of games. Soul Calibur 2 was a game that my friend had at his house. He did have the GameCube one, so I think that's the one that we played. He was like, "Oh, you gotta play it, it's so cool," and I played it. And I'm like, I don't know, because it's a fighting game, and I'm not that into them. And Eternal Darkness is something that I didn't have any exposure to. I knew the name, but I didn't have any exposure to it until I looked into it specifically for this bracket. And it's definitely like, it is the kind of game that I think that if I played it at time or even in the years after that, I would have thought, oh, this is cool. This does a lot of cool, interesting things. It's a thing where looking at it now, it's like, okay, well, you know, do I look at it like one might vote, or well, not one, where I might in a N64 type of bracket might vote for Mario 64, if only because, oh, well, you know, it inspired so much and it went on to do that so many things, even if I think that Mario 64 is itself it's fine. So it's like it's like I've seen it done better later, but should I pay respect to the OG in a way? To that point, though, I would maybe go, oh, well, Metal Gear Solid 1, But obviously, like you said, this is kind of that phantom.
There's an interesting thing too, because I know we're making Metal Gear Solid comparisons. The team that made it was Silicon Knights, I believe.
Dennis Diak's own.
The team that made Eternal Darkness actually came from Legacy of Kain. And so Nintendo saw, I think it was Blood Omen. They saw Blood Omen and were very impressed and said, we want you to make a game for us for N64. And the game was functionally done, and it had the classic GameCube story of, well, actually, we don't care about the N64 anymore. Delay it and move it. And so it came out, about a year into the GameCube's lifespan, and kind of just got lost in the shuffle, which is funny because there weren't a lot of games out at the time. Just maybe it was the rated M thing. I think a lot of it, no one was going to buy a GameCube for one game at that point, even after the price drop. So it's a tough one because a lot of people have cited that as an inspiration. And it's also a tough one because I think that if it had gotten even a spiritual sequel like the Kickstarters that never got anywhere, I think we might have an even better appreciation of it. But it's kind of almost like the reason I say this is I'm looking at the Metacritic rankings here of these games. And again, these aren't the be all end all, but it's just an interesting comparison to give you for contemporary rankings of these games. Soul Calibur 2 is the 5th highest rated game on the system.
Oh,
whoa!
Eternal Darkness is 10th, and Pikmin 2 is 24th. People forget how big Soul Calibur was.
Soul Calibur is the reason why arcades died. I'm not even going to front.
Like Soul Calibur
1 is the reason that arcades died. 100%. Like arcade machines of Soul Calibur 1 ran off of a Dreamcast.
Yeah,
like that was the moment when home gaming was better than the arcade.
Yeah, and I mean, Soul Calibur 1 is one of the highest rated games ever. Period. Full stop.
Point blank. Period.
And that's why I said it's kind of a shame that it did have such a death, and that it's of its era as much as it is. But 2 of these 3 games are kind of that way, because without anything that's ever been like Eternal Darkness, you just kind of get the thing where it's like, everyone loves Sin and Punishment because there's nothing else like it. But that's maybe more accessible a game than Eternal Darkness. Not to compare the two directly. Yeah. It's hard to recommend Eternal Darkness unless you specifically say, go legally find a copy online that is digital and play it, or spend several $100s, because it's not a cheap game.
Yeah.
You know how I know it's not a cheap game? I got it right here.
Yeah.
Whoa!
There it is.
Justin only has expensive games.
Brody, so I want to come back to you, Brody, because I know you had some thoughts that I think you wanted to finish.
I mean, honestly, it was just like, looking at it, it was like, okay, well, this is... If I put myself in the mindset of someone who played it when it came out, I go, this is really neat. Probably would have scared me as a kid. But looking at it from the perspective of, I'm looking at it today, is when I looked at it. It was or maybe yesterday, I don't remember. Anyway, it was like, okay, this looks like Resident Evil. This looks like, we have Resident Evil at home, and then it became this. Why did it become we have Crash Bandicoot at home? I don't know what happened.
It goes through it's more of a puzzle game than it is a horror game a lot of the time. Is also like it's such an interesting microcosm of a lot of the games from the transition from like PS1 and 64 era to the following generation.
Yeah. Ultimately, though, I think if it's a toss-up between Eternal Darkness and Pikmin 2 for me. Eternal Darkness because it's like, oh, that's interesting, and Pikmin 2 because it's like, oh, I know factually, even with my limited experience, like that is the one that I had the most fun with.
Yeah. Let's go around the horn here. I know, Trav, you said Pikmin 2. Justin, how are you leaning?
I was gonna say my vote doesn't matter. I didn't actually give you any. I didn't give you any opinions on the game. I own Eternal Darkness. I have the game. I will never play it. I am afraid of that game. Pikmin 2. I don't like Pikmin because the Bulborb scared me as a kid. So
if Soul Calibur 2 scared you as a kid too, then
and then Soul Calibur 2, I adore that game so much. I played it for hours by myself. It has one of the most robust single player modes of any fighting game I've ever played in my life.
Wait, seriously?
It is phenomenal. Soul Calibur 2 is such a good game. It is so good, and it pains me that it will not be moving on because I'm the only person that played it.
No, I played it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get engrossed.
Yeah, we
in it,
just
but I
don't
played
like it, Justin.
Yeah, I just don't like it.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot. That I went
Talon
to
was
you
my
last year,
character. I
Justin.
played Talon. This game is great.
But yeah, so you're Soul Calibur.
Mm-hmm.
Brody, are you leaning one way?
I mean, honestly, it's the kind of thing where I'm kind of hoping something else gets 3 votes before I have to say anything.
Chris,
I honestly don't know.
Chris, are you? I mean, you played Pikmin 2, so I'm assuming that's you.
That's where I have to go. Like my heart says Eternal Darkness did cool shit and I value that, but I didn't play it, so it feels inauthentic to vote for it. You know what I mean?
That's fair. So Brody, it's you and me. I kind of have to vote Eternal Darkness because that's the one that I think I do value the most. I didn't play Pikmin 2. And since Pikmin 1 is here, I know we did the Metroid Prime 2 thing before, but I can talk about Pikmin 1. I can't talk about Pikmin 2. And I know that Pikmin 1 has actually, maybe it doesn't matter.
Yeah, Pikmin's dying.
I think I'm Eternal Darkness.
Pikmin's gonna die, yeah.
So, Brody, we have 2 for Pikmin. You could go Eternal Darkness and make Justin vote for 2 games he has scared of.
2 games I don't like, yeah.
Actually, wait, yeah, do that. I think that's the right answer. Make Justin vote for a game he's too scared of.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like ultimately, right? Like you said, if we're using Justin's Metroid Prime 2 logic, it's like Pikmin 1 is on this list, and I would rather, amongst these games, it's like maybe I shouldn't consider that, but Pikmin 1 is on this list, and I would rather vote for that than 2. So maybe I'll give it to Eternal Darkness just for the interesting factor.
So Justin, you have to vote for 2 games you're too afraid to play.
Straight up.
One of them involves cartoons, and one is Pikmin.
Yeah.
Love you, Justin.
Your vote matters. You're the swing state.
Think about how cool the purple Pikmin is, bro.
Okay, so here's my thinking right now in terms of pragmatism. Pikmin 1's gonna die in that bracket.
You don't know that. You don't know that.
Pikmin 1 is going to die.
You don't
in that
know
bracket.
that.
It's Twilight Princess and Thousand Year Door. Pikmin is going to die in that bracket.
Non-believer.
But Eternal Darkness does cool shit.
The top of the bracket, the C bracket, ended up being kind of like, here's a bunch of really cool shit games. Like not cool, like not shit as in the insult. Just here are games that did cool shit. That's just how it shook out.
Mm-hmm.
Which is what's interesting is if you're thinking pragmatically, I don't know where the C bracket goes, frankly, because
I mean, no, I know exactly where the C bracket goes, and it's Super Monkey Ball.
You shut up. I'm building suspense, goddammit.
It's Super Monkey Ball. I'll go Eternal Darkness. I think the game's cool.
Okay, so Eternal Darkness is moving on.
Wow.
It's a tough one. It's such a tough one. Because it's a lot of games that we don't have a ton of experience with. That's one of our. That's the only one that I think we had the least experience with as far as like each of the brackets go.
Yeah, I mean, Soul Calibur should have won, but y'all are cowards.
It's just if I'm gonna play a fighting game, I'm not gonna go back to Soul Calibur 2.
You should have told my buddy to go easier on me as a kid.
God, so you could have liked it more.
If I won, I would have liked it.
So Justin, you just mentioned
had items.
You just mentioned in the A bracket.
Link has bombs.
You just mentioned in the A bracket the another round of death. We're gonna skip over that one because I want to talk about Chibi Robo versus Resident Evil 4 versus Viewtiful Joe.
What is this? What is this round?
This one is rough
because that's hilarious.
That one's hilarious.
What's hilarious is I think I know I don't know how it's gonna go, but I know who's gonna get knocked out. And that's hilarious.
I know where this is going, and I'll say it.
Can I start?
You go.
If I'm too scared to play Pikmin 2, do you really think that I am playing Resident Evil 4?
That's an action game, Justin.
Dear
it invented
listener.
the QuickTime event, kind of. Not really.
They should mod Bulborg
God
into
of War
that.
is right there. So, Viewtiful Joe, I have heard rave reviews that the game stinks.
What?
And Chibi Robo, I played 3 hours of. So I gotta give it to Chibi Robo.
Oh, okay. Ribbit.
Trav, I'm going to bounce to you next.
I don't know why
GameCube fan 873 is in the comments.
These games. The only thing I know about this is in Viewtiful Joe, there's a guy that goes, "What are you, some kind of Mega Man?" and that's it.
So
I think that's worthy of a vote.
we got Trav out of the way. Chris, I'm gonna bounce to you. What's your experience with these 3 games?
You know, I've done back shots off of RE4 for the last 3 years. So I'm kind of over it at this point.
I need that.
Chibi, Robo,
audio
and Viewtiful Joe.
isolated right there.
I played for the first time today. I think Chibi Robo is real funny. I like that the little
you played
girls
Chibi Robo before
ribbon a lot.
today. Correct. Because I saw you play Chibi Robo.
No, you saw me play Chibi. No, I played Chibi Robo on my own.
I know you played Viewtiful Joe today because you had forgotten that you had written down that you would play it. I thought you played Chibi Robo before. Sorry.
For some reason, I had the impression that Chris was the Chibi Robo fan.
No.
Well,
for a long time.
You do give those vibes.
I do love that you can customize the robots. I think the multiplayer is super good.
I forgot we were doing
that's
this
custom
bit.
Robo.
I
That's
didn't.
custom
No.
Robo.
No. It's fine.
What?
I forgot that. No, I forgot
It's
that
a
this
great
was
bit.
this was a
I
bit that
did
we.
forget that was the bit. We were just going to talk about it like it's custom Robo. It's
Yeah,
just not
I completely
no,
forgot
good.
we were doing that bit. Custom
That's what it
Robo
was.
Chris's vanity pick, but sadly, when we got down to it, it couldn't make the cut. We probably should have gotten rid of Wario World, though.
Which is why I had
Probably
to
should've
take
gotten rid of
Brody's
Wario.
out so that we're even.
What?
Right?
No.
'Cause-
What?
Wario
What?
World rocks.
You guys
we'll
don't
get
even
there.
want Kirby Air Ride, and now you're going to
I
getting
think
rid of
I
Wario
now
World.
remember
Trav.
why Wario World
Look at that.
survived, and it's because of Trav.
Look at
Trav,
there, Trav.
Trav, are you looking at the
What?
bracket right now?
I can.
Do you know who's in the same bracket as Wario World?
Let's get there when we get there.
Oh,
So,
we'll get there.
Okay,
Brody.
good point.
Brody,
Okay, Jungle Beat
what
Sweep.
Yeah.
are your experiences with the 3 games we're supposed to be currently talking about?
I think I watched a YouTube video on Chibi Robo once.
Chris is done.
Never touched it. Resident Evil 4, never touched it. Viewtiful Joe, I did have that one because I had a buddy in school who was like, dude, you have to get Viewtiful Joe. It's so good. It's so cool. It's one of my favorite GameCube games. This dude was like the biggest Nintendo nerd I knew at the time in like grade 5, right?
You're
Or
not
whatever it
friends
was.
anymore, I'm guessing.
No, but
Brody, did every time your friend pick up a hamburger, did he go, yummy?
I don't know. He was just like, you gotta play Viewtiful Joe. And so I picked it up eventually, and I played, I think, the first level, and I was like, this is not at all even remotely what I expected this game to be. I didn't expect it to be a side-scrolling game. I didn't expect to. The weird thing is that at the time I don't think I had played Jungle Beat yet. So I was like, wait, why is there a side-scrolling game on a home console? This doesn't make sense. Because I was at that level of young. I was like, this should be on Game Boy.
You're
if
the
it's a
reason.
side-scroller.
GBA.
You're the reason that Ratchet and Clank Up Your Arsenal didn't have a more involved Quark minigame because there were kids like you that hadn't played 2D games. So they were like, well, we can't make our Mega Man X because these kids are too stupid.
I played them. I was just like, but they're on Game Boy. They're on
I
Game
gotta
Boy
kill
Advance.
Brody.
It's
That's
the
anyway.
epitome to me of like the Walmart game I mentioned though, right? Because like Viewtiful Joe, my memory
Yes.
of it is being like 8, looking up at the stupid screen, hurting my neck and being like, I don't understand what this is and I feel uncomfortable. And then my dad came and got me and I was like, thank God.
Yeah,
Did,
but the shouts I have to give it is that they went on to make a good game, which was Okami, but also that I do like when I was putting together the fish bracket, I found Gran Bruce, who is this
You can't
large
just drop that an hour
shark.
into a podcast and have
The
like people know what the
shark
fish
man.
bracket
The fish
is.
bracket is available
Well,
at patreon.com/crub. Incredible
Yeah, if
bonus
you like
content.
brackets.
Yeah.
If you
it's-
You
like
like brackets like
brackets.
this.
Brody does the unhinged versions of these brackets. This is what hinged looks like.
I don't know about that.
Oh, okay.
Melee's
So
not in the bracket anymore.
ultimately, I'm giving my vote to Viewtiful Joe, if only because it's the only one I played, but also I think it's stylish. I think it's, what is it, in the Wonderful 101 universe or something like that?
I think so.
No.
I don't.
I think it actually is. Yeah.
Oh, do they
Really?
retcon
I-
Wonderful 101?
I think Wonderful 101 references Viewtiful Joe directly.
Yeah, because Viewtiful Joe is kind of like he's basically one. Like the Wonderful 101 all kind of look like Viewtiful Joe.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's all tension, like it's all Sentai like knockoffs from like
Well, that
Power
that
Rangers
too.
and stuff.
That too. Anyway, doesn't matter. As far as my experiences with these games go, I am the only one of us to have played Resident Evil 4. This was the one example where I said, you know what? None of us should play Resident Evil 4 because in the same way that Sonic Adventure 2 is a Dreamcast game, I don't care that Resident Evil 4 is a GameCube game. It's not. I know it came to GameCube first and exclusively, but it's on everything. And it's included because it's one of the highest rated GameCube games of all time. I am personally opposed to the idea of it being rated as one of the best GameCube games of all time because you're not going to play it there. You're not.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to play it on Wii at the very least if you're going to play it on Nintendo. And
I'm ready for someone to get mad at this and take it seriously.
It's okay. We're far enough into this bracket that I timed this well.
See, with SA2, you at least had someone that would go, well, at least Brody likes it. But for this one, it's like, no.
Look, all I'm saying,
no ammo on both sides of the porch, Brody.
Crub hates Resident Evil 4. Put it on your
especially Nico.
Only Nico's
especially
happy.
Nico.
Nico's happy with it.
No, he hates it.
By the way, I have this game. I have that game too. I'm not playing it.
So here's the thing.
Not playing it.
Here's the thing. Eternal Darkness moved on. Resident Evil will not. And that says everything it needs to say about what the best GameCube horror game is. So,
honestly.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
Luigi's Mansion should have made it, but unfortunately it was put in a death sentence bracket.
I like what I've played of Resident Evil 4. Those games are not for me. Justin's showing off his Sonic games for some reason. I don't care.
I got Brody's. This one's mine, and this one's Brody's.
You could have shown these off, any other time during this podcast, like when we talked about those games.
Mine was the player's choice. You have to give me that one.
Yeah, that's the one you get. I have
This
the
is
other
a
one.
farce. Kevin, keep talking.
Chibi Robo.
I do have. Okay.
Chibi Robo!
I've played Viewtiful Joe. I don't care for Viewtiful Joe very much. I think it's a very dated game. And if I was going to play that game, I would be the modern gamer that I am, and I would want save states because that game sends you back really damn far if you die. Chris, you experienced that.
I was an idiot and I beat up every enemy on the way in the first level. I got to the helicopter boss and it killed me and it sent me all the way back to the start of the game. And I was like, bro, I just spent 20 minutes on this. And granted, if you just run through, it's pretty quick. It's like 4 minutes, but...
Wait, but Kevin, you like Ratchet and Clank.
What does that have to do? What?
The most unforgiving checkpoints in any video game.
I didn't hear Brody
Viewtiful
because
Joe
I
takes
was
you-
talking.
Viewtiful Joe
So
takes you
don't
back
worry.
to the start of the level. Like, there are some checkpoints if you die, but like if you die like 3 times, even if you're on the boss,
Jesus.
start over, and they don't really tell you how to fight that first boss. It's not like an easy tutorial boss. It's a
I
helicopter.
don't know how to beat it.
You got to kick a helicopter,
That's pretty cool.
and I've done it.
Can do that though.
I've done it. You slow down time, the helicopter falls. It's a cool mechanic. I don't care for the game, and that's that. Chibi Robo, I had never played before we started doing prep for this bracket, and I really actually enjoyed it. It's a quirky game.
I like that game.
It's a weird game. I can't really put my finger on what I like about it. It's kind of just you do chores, and somehow that's fun. I don't know. I enjoy it, and I'm going to vote for Chibi Robo because it's funny to put that over Resident Evil 4.
Whoa.
Definitive bracket. Definitive
So
best GameCube game.
I would like to say one thing about RE4.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. No, but I do have one experience with it. I have started the game twice, and I did not make it very far. But that's not the part I want to talk about. The part I want to talk about is one time I was hanging out with Gland of the show. Some call me Johnny.
Is it Gland of
And
the show?
Sorry, I meant friend of the show.
Wow.
Gland
What?
of the show.
I don't want to know
What
about
does
his
that
glands.
mean?
Anyway, he found out I never played RE4, and his reaction, I've never heard him so like visceral in a 1v1 conversation.
That makes me
of just,
downright glandular,
You've
Trav.
never played RE1? Like, I've never seen this man emote so much when he's not on camera. Like, it was a surreal experience, kind of scared me. And he was like, you need to play RE4. And I still haven't.
I've gone through, like, I've gotten a decent bit into the game and the remake, and I know it's influential as far as being one of the first modern action games, and I don't really care. It's kind of mid.
Yeah.
It's kind of mid. I'll say it.
There's no bullets on both sides of the porch.
So I voted
I'm not
Chibi
playing that
Robo. Justin, you voted Chibi Robo.
Chibi Robo was a lot of fun. I'm not gonna
Chris,
lie.
you voted
I played it,
Custom
played it, I was
Robo.
like, yeah.
Yes.
Brody, you voted Viewtiful Joe. Trav,
Yeah.
I think I gotta vote Chibi Robo.
yeah, I mean, your vote didn't matter anyway. It was going to move on, but
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Chibi Robo
There's a
is
version of me
really
that if
cute.
I learned Viewtiful Joe, I'd probably wind up fighting for it here because I am a sucker for the Kamiya Platinum
Yeah.
Games
it
style. Like, I love their games. It's
it reminds me
I
of
didn't
like,
give myself enough time on this one.
you know how like there are like early Suda games that are really, really clunky and like they're really hard to get into, and then No More Heroes is kind of easy to get into, and like Killer 7's kind of easy to get into. I mean, not as much Killer 7, but this feels like Kamiya's version of that, where I could play this, or like Brody said, I could play Okami if I want to play a game with this director's vibe, with this, that vibe to it. I could play Bayonetta.
Play Metal Gear Solid Revengeance, Metal Gear Rising Revengeance.
Yeah, and that's a banging game.
Also a good game.
Really good GameCube game.
Really good game.
So Chibi Robo has beaten Resident Evil 4 and moved on in this bracket. We're gonna jump ahead.
That's correct.
We're gonna jump ahead to the B block now, and I don't know which one I want to pick. I'm gonna pick Star Wars Rogue Leader versus Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness versus Super Mario Strikers.
Okay.
Does anyone want dibs on going first on this one?
I have a lot of things to say about this bracket.
Go ahead, Justin.
I played all these games. Rogue Leader's a very good Star Fox game. Very, very good Star Fox game. I was surprised how well that game controls and how well that game still holds up to this day.
That game might be really one of the best. Like, it's that and Star Fox 64 is the best Star Fox games. Actually,
it feels really good to play.
Like,
I haven't played Starlink yet though, so
Starlink's not really. It's good. It's fine, but
yeah, it's one of those. Mario Strikers. I played that game so much when I was younger. That game is so good. People just try and like talk down on that game and be like, oh, it's just a worse version of Mario Strikers Charge. Bro, Mario Strikers Charge wishes it was as good as Mario Strikers.
I forget. I've played both with you, and I always forget which one I like more. Because I know
we both agreed that the GameCube one is better.
Okay, that's what I thought. Because I don't like the charge moves because they're like instant wins. Like, you can block them, but
you can also block them they're a lot easier to block in the GameCube version. And then in Mario Strikers Charge, like there's a lot of like weird things happening where
it goes into like a mini game.
That's what I mean. Like in Charged, it's essentially like,
and like you also control the goalie and you have to like catch the ball.
Yeah.
Like it's weird.
I don't know. It just feels like it's too. It's like the problem I have with Mario Tennis Aces, where it's like you have a super move that's way too powerful. And I know some people like that, but I kind of like just playing sports as Mario sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you want to play Mario sports with superpowers, just play NBA Street.
True. You could hit him with the F Chris.
The F Chris and the Swallow-Luigi.
Yeah.
Pokemon XD is actually I would put my card on the table here. This is one of my favorite Pokemon games of all time. Wow. Like straight up. Like this game is really, really, really good. And like it's just so unique. It has a different vibe than every other Pokemon game like pretty much ever made. The fact that it's all double battles is really, really cool. It's like the first real mainline Pokemon game. It's not a mainline Pokemon game, but it's like the first like real Pokemon game on console where it's an action adventure. Not really action adventure, it's more like an RPG adventure where you're walking around and fighting people in Pokemon battles instead of it just being like Stadium or Battle Revolution, which is what they went to after this. It's so like, it just has this way about it where it's just like, it feels so good to play and like, it's like weirdly restrictive in terms of the Pokemon you can have, which people don't like. But I actually think it's really cool in terms of like team building that you get. Like these are the Pokemon you get, and depending on where you get them during the game, it'll change how your team building will go. And I really like that about it too. And it also has the added benefit of having Shadow Lugia in the game, which is one of the coolest designs of a Pokemon.
XD001.
I want to jump in really quick because I also forgot to mention the rankings of the prior bracket. So I want to hit that and then hit these. No, it's all your fault. So Chibi Robo was the 185th best GameCube game. It beat the 8th best and 2nd best in Viewtiful Joe and RE4.
Welcome to
RE4
Crub.
was the 2nd best?
It's yeah.
Shameful.
That's crazy. That's crazy to think that it's worse than Chibi Robo.
And
Justin,
as far as this bracket goes, I want to say that Mario Strikers is the 171st. That was at the point that a lot of sports games kind of got knocked down a peg. The Pokemon XD is the lowest rated game that's on this bracket because we weren't sure. We weren't sure to go between Coliseum and XD. I think XD is rated it's like a 50 something on Metacritic. It's not a liked game. 322nd. On the best GameCube games. There are only 200 GameCube games, so I'm not sure how that happened. And Rogue Squadron 2 Rogue Leader is 22nd as far
Very
as
good
the
game.
all-time, one of the best launch games, like full stop.
Justin,
Christopher.
how far in is the ship in the desert in XD with the Munchlax?
I mean, the ship is the first thing you see in the game, but you don't see the Munchlax until I'd say like halfway through.
Okay, that's how much of that game I played. I just needed to make sure because it's the only one of these three I played.
It's not as hard as Coliseum, I will say that. Because Coliseum like has some points where it's like straight up, if you don't grind, you're not going to beat the game.
And even if you do grind, you're probably going to have issues.
You're probably still going to have issues. You're going to get slapped around a little bit.
So,
But XD Gale of Darkness, the power scaling is perfect. Like you just can keep playing the game like a normal person.
so Chris, what are your limited thoughts on Pokemon XD since that's the one that you have played?
Pretty much mirroring what Justin said, right? Like I played a lot more Coliseum because I didn't have XD as a kid. But when I did borrow XD off of a friend, you know, it reuses a lot of the same areas, which is both good and bad, depending on how you look at it. But contrasted in the main series, I like that it is so double battle focused, and you can tell that it was made by people who hadn't really played Pokemon because it's weird. But they also, I feel like, took a good look at the battle system and made you actually have to learn it and use it in intricate ways, and had foes that would use the battle system in intricate ways that you often didn't get in the main series, at least through the story, right? So as a fan of Pokemon, I think that's good. And that's pretty much all I can say.
Okay.
I didn't have XD, so it's kind of a weird thing of like I played half of it and went, huh?
Yeah.
And I gave it, my friend wanted it back, so that was kind of the end of it.
Brody, I'm going to jump to you next.
Yeah. So, Rogue Leader was the other game besides Eternal Darkness that I was forcibly conscripted to play for this. And you know what? It is Star Fox, right? Like it is. I looked. I'm like, yep. If Eternal Darkness was we have Resident Evil at home, Rogue Leader is we have Star Fox at home, which is fine, right? Like if you like Star Fox, I'm sure that's good. I've never been a huge fan personally, but I just don't have a lot of exposure to those kinds of games. Mario Strikers was another game where it was like I played it at a friend's house. My opinion on Mario Strikers is limited in that it's like I think Mario sports games are cool. I think I like the Daisy voice actor in that game, and
that's going to swing this entire vote.
Hold on. You got to elaborate on that one.
Yeah. Daisy's voice actor went hard in Mario Strikers.
Okay.
Like there's
when you turn the game on, she goes Nintendo. Yeah, like that.
Yeah, like you can look up. Yeah, you can
Actually,
look up the.
Okay. I was thinking that she just said
YouTube
I'm
video.
Daisy, and you liked that, and I was confused.
No,
that's-
there's
that's
like a
from
lot
Double
of
Dash.
like
That's from
she
Double
went
Dash.
hard in the paint. It's very like that is Daisy at her most tomboyish in the entire series.
Okay.
I think.
A positive.
And yeah, and I don't know. That's cool. My last Mario Strikers opinion is that this should have been Mario Golf Toadstool Tour.
Also
Okay.
a good game.
Agree.
Yeah.
The Mario Golf was one that we debated putting on, but we already had Mario Party and Kart. And if there was a sports game that defined the GameCube, Strikers is more that.
You think?
Yeah, I don't think Mario
think so.
Golf defines the GameCube. Mario
Yeah, no, I don't
Mario
think so.
Tennis doesn't
I
define
think-
the GameCube. Mario Tennis was an
I was-
N64 game.
As an
I think of
outsider,
golf and-
Strikers is very much the one I
Yeah.
would always
Yeah,
see and hear about.
And I think of golf and tennis on the N64.
Yeah, like because Mario Golf Toadstool Tour is just a slightly more feature-full version of the N64 game. Mario Tennis is a different game than the original Mario Tennis, but it's mostly just kind of the same thing, you know, conceptually. Strikers is at least its own thing. It is decidedly GameCube. And if we're going to put a Mario Golf game in any discussion, it's got to be the 3DS one because that game has so much content. One of the best DLC sets that any game has ever had. And it's golf.
Shame I didn't buy that before they got rid of it.
You can get it illegally, so it's fine.
It's true. It's really easy to
We
hack
here
your
at Crub
3DS.
recommend that you illegally download all of your games.
yeah.
All of them.
Hack
This
your
is legal
3DS.
advice.
Yeah, this
Hack
is
your
listening to those
3DS.
Daisy
It's
clips, by
surprisingly
the
easy
way.
to do.
Trav, let's jump to you.
Were you?
All
Yeah,
right.
fuck Pokemon.
So.
Oh, I'm sorry.
of
Yeah,
these,
I
the
knew
one-
I knew Brody, you didn't play Pokemon. Sorry, I forgot.
So I've
No,
never
but I think
played
it's cool.
Pokemon XD. I'm interrupting Brody because he's the only one here in chat who actually types out XD in our chats, and I hate that. So I never played Pokemon XD. Looked cool. Remember seeing the box art a lot in stores growing up. Thought it was neat. Didn't know what Pokemon really was back then. Like I knew of it, but I never played it. Rogue Leader. I remember putting down on the little questionnaire thing or whatever, like, did you play this game list, that I said I never played it, which is kind of true. But I remembered yesterday-ish that I played it on the Mario Kart Double Dash bonus disc because it was included as a demo on that.
How many games were on that demo disc?
There was a lot. There was a Ninja Turtles game too.
There was Sonic Heroes.
Yep, Sonic
Mario
Heroes.
Mario Party 5. And then
I think that one was just a video. I don't think you could play.
No. You could play some of the mini games on Mario Party 5. I remember that.
Oh, wow. I don't remember that at all.
Yeah.
But I played a lot of Mario Strikers when I was like 10 or so, maybe 11. I remember I don't remember too much of the game, but I remember that when the Wii version came out, I didn't care for it because I felt like it complicated it too much and not in a fun way. And also, I remember as a kid unlocking the robot team where everyone on your team could use the super strike or whatever.
Yep.
And thinking that is the most broken thing I've played in a sports game, and it was awesome. So I got to go Mario Strikers because it had robots in it.
Okay. I will say I have limited experience with Pokemon XD. I don't think I've ever actually played it. I know I haven't played it myself as far as story goes. I think I played like bits of it at friends' houses for some reason. But that might have been Coliseum for all I know. I think it was XD. Rogue Leader, again, is just such a damn cool game. The third game is also really cool. Rogue, I forget the name. Rebel Strike? Yeah.
I think so.
That's the sequel to this one. That's another really cool one. That one's not as highly rated, but I kind of think it's just as good, just about. There's something incredible about being able to play some of the most iconic moments in Star Wars. And this is one of the first games to do it in a way that felt on the level of Star Wars, because this is like a cinematic experience sort of game when you're, flying through the trenches. And that's part of the reason that it holds up as well as it does. But I think in the same breath, if I'm thinking of decidedly GameCube games, I'm not really thinking of Star Wars. I do think it's deserving of a mention, but I also think that Mario Strikers, even as a game that I have personally never owned, is a more iconic GameCube experience. And I think I would vote for it as well. So I think that already makes 3.
So what we have two for Mario Strikers. Brody, did you also vote for Mario Strikers?
No, actually, I'm actually gonna vote for Pokemon XD, because again, I have very limited experience with all of these games, but I do specifically. For one, I liked the idea when I saw Coliseum of like, oh, it's like a mainline game, but on console, and then XD is like the sequel to that, and that's really cool. The other thing is that I remember seeing advertisements on TV for Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness with Dark Lugia, or Shadow Lugia, or whatever he's called, and I'm like, that's so cool! And I never bought it, but I was like, that's really cool, and that's honestly in this round, that's enough to get the vote for me.
Looking at the other entries in B block, I don't think it really matters who wins here is maybe what I'll say anyway, right?
Yeah. So
no matter who comes out of this one, what they're up against.
Chris, remind me which one you ended up on in the end.
I've only played Pokemon.
So Pokemon actually did win 3-2 then. In which case I'm going to vote my conscience and say Rogue Leader. But because it doesn't matter.
Mario. I do love Mario Strikers a lot.
Well, then vote for it, coward.
But man.
So we're going to move on to the final entry in this part of the Crubcast, of this episode 1 of our 2-part special. And then we will continue on with some of the real heavy hitters and the rest of the bracket in rounds 2 and the finals in the next episode of the podcast coming out next Friday. Or if you're listening to this later on in life, it's already out probably. I'm going to make this one nice and simple for us. Wario World versus Super Monkey Ball 2 versus DK Jungle Beat. Justin, you want to just get yours out of the way now?
It's Monkey Ball. It's Monkey Ball.
Chris, you want to get yours out of the way now?
Having played Wario World for this, that is a completely acceptable video game, but Monkey Ball 2 is just the GOAT. It is just ridiculously good. I went into it expecting to not like it and think it's too hard a few years back, and I came out of it being like, this might be a perfect video.
We have invented a drinking game based on Monkey Ball.
I was
And
about
yes.
to bring that up.
Like it is
Yeah.
a time honored tradition. I do want to say before I pass to you, Trav, because you're the one Wario World defender I think we'll have. Wario World was the 233rd highest rated GameCube game. Monkey Ball 2 was 45th, and DK Jungle Beat was 109th. So
That sounds right.
Great pause music on Wario World. I like that.
that's a great nod for
Oh
Wario.
yeah. And then he farts and then he says sorry.
So
He's well mannered. Yeah.
I will pass to you, Trav, because I know you are the Wario World defender of us. What do you think of these three games?
I gotta go with Monkey Ball 2.
Diablo.
No, I do love Wario World. I don't think it's an amazing game, but it's one much like Luigi's Mansion. I got stuck on as a kid and didn't beat for like 2 years later.
I can
It's
see that.
have any of you played this? Like, if I'm about to describe this moment, would you get it?
Chris,
I've played
Wario
Wario World. I love
Okay.
Wario World.
So you know the moment, I want to say it's in the fourth world, second level. There's a segment where you have to pick up these enemies that have like shovel heads and like throw them in the wall and use them as platforms. I did not understand that as a kid. Like it's just to reach the boss. And
I mean,
I just could
even-
not get it. I kept running around the world.
Chris, you were struggling with like some early parts of Wario World's like weird puzzle stuff too.
Yeah, some of it was just due to very legally obtaining the game and not having the manual, right?
That's
like
fair.
there were some things in the wall you have to spin, and I was like, I don't have a spin
Yeah.
move. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. So I had to Google
that
that.
tripped me up as a kid. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a weird game because it's cool to have a 3D Wario game, and it's cool that it's still kind of a Wario Land game mostly. It's Wario Land plus like DK64 mini games.
Yeah, I mean, you don't get power-ups
Yeah.
by getting hurt, but yeah.
Yeah, that's true. It's not that much of a Wario World, but it's kind of like in the spirit at the very least.
I like how like everything in the spirit of a Wario game, all of the like enemy designs and boss designs are like really out there and creepy and like avant-garde, kind of like, what is this doing in a game with a Mario character in
You're
it?
right, but oh my gosh, the bosses are so fun in my opinion.
It's-
I love the
yeah,
bosses in
It's,
they're
Wario.
it's
really
such an
cool.
interesting thing too because you have all these really cool, unique enemy designs, and then Wario farts, and it doesn't really feel like it's got a good cohesion to it, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's treasure, right? Like Gunstar Heroes, etc. Treasure.
I
think.
believe so. I
That's a
don't.
weird one.
Yeah. Monkey Ball already has 3 votes. I'm gonna make it 4. Bro, do you want to say what your vote is now?
Yeah, so my vote's actually Donkey Kong Jungle
Of
Beat
course
because I love
of-
the DK
of course.
bongos and I love
Bro,
I
I got
played
my
the
bongos.
hell out of DK. I love Monkey Ball. I love Wario World, but DK Jungle Beat, I was on that thing like bum 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 bum. I love the bosses in it like bum 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 bum.
It's like Punch Out.
And the
I
thing,
do have my
Sounds like me
bongos
and
up there.
RE4.
Justin, you have everything for GameCube somewhere in your room.
I do.
So
I do.
you
I
can
love
just
the GameCube.
you could just say like any of these games. I have that
Do you
over
have the
there.
microphone?
I did, but I sold it.
I have 2 of them.
I didn't even have the rhythm
Yeah.
game that you get. I didn't have Donkey Konga. I only for my bongos had Jungle Beat and I loved
Yeah.
it.
It's
Although I tried playing other games with it.
I like the idea of DK Jungle Beat because I think it's really, really cool that is essentially the proto Mario Galaxy. That team was rewarded by making Mario Galaxy. Like they were the ones tasked, and you can see a lot of like the similar mechanics done in 3D in Galaxy, and it's a really cool thing to see. At the same time, I don't really like the bongos as a controller. I think they're really neat for other games. I think it's cool that there's a bongo platformer. I would rather just play a real platformer at a point. I think it's a novel idea, but I would rather just play a regular Donkey Kong game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's the best Donkey Kong game.
I know you always have these thoughts.
You're always saying these kinds of things.
Actually, sorry, no, Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Layer is the best Donkey Kong game, but
That's
still.
true. That's true.
Mr. Electric, send him to the.
Monkey Ball 2,
It's real.
as with every weird Brody third string opinion here, Monkey Ball 2 got 4 of the 5 votes, and then there's Brody. So
yeah.
Monkey Ball 2 is moving on. That's just one of the best games ever made. I don't care what
I
the
would say-
rating at the time said. It's iconic.
I
It'll
will
get
say,
more in-depth flowers soon, I imagine.
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. I want to give a little shout out to Jungle Beat though. It is really, really cool. But Monkey Ball 2 is the best game ever made. So
See, my thing is I would rather play the remake of it, right?
and I'd rather you not talk.
And with that, we're going to say thank you for watching. I'm going to jump over to the screen that shows you the current makeup of the bracket before we go, so that you can see that ahead of us, we have in the next episode, Paper Mario Thousand Year Door versus Twilight Princess versus Pikmin to close out the A block. The winner of that will face Mario Kart Double Dash and Chibi Robo to move on to the finals. In the B block, we have Mario Sunshine versus Pokemon XD versus it's going to be Metroid Prime, but we don't know that. Maybe we'll all coop together and vote Mario Party.
Good. Mario Party's pretty good.
And we have Eternal
Mario
Darkness.
Party's pretty good.
Eternal Darkness versus Super Monkey Ball 2 versus the winner of Animal Crossing versus Wind Waker versus Fire Emblem. That's going to be another interesting one because
Very
That one's gonna be a bloodbath.
that's going to be we have had a lot of bloodbaths here. But
Yeah.
I've
love
had
blood.
a lot of fun with this first part of the discussion. I'm looking forward to seeing how much more we will yell at each other by the time that Monkey Ball wins.
The gloves are coming off
winner
next
is going to
episode,
be
I can tell.
Elden Ring, I will say.
This was the very civil part of this episode. Next episode is where we get to spend way more time yelling at each other, and I'm excited for it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone have any Trav, final thoughts? Give us an outro.
Look, at the end of the day, the PlayStation 2 is